If you're watching porn, you cannot be present in sex and you won't be the best lover you can be. What's happening with that chemical addiction comes anxiety and depression because it's that part of the brain that gets affected. The women are blaming themselves. Guys, if you're listening, please start talking to your women about erectile dysfunction. Does she know that you think she's ugly? That's just more evidence of men doing things that they don't want to do. Lots of men are on Viagra in their 20s. I've seen lots of them. It doesn't work. Look at him, he's really cute. He's been messaging me. I'm like, great. And then in the same sentence, they'll say he's still living with his wife and he drinks and he's got a drug addiction and he watches porn. And I'm like, so you're not meeting him, are you? And she's like, oh yeah, we're meeting up this afternoon. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on there?
Hi my friend and welcome to Unstuck, the best podcast on holistic health. My name is Nick and honestly I wouldn't mind being your favorite host from now on. What does it feel like when you have to deal with any health related problem, whether this is severe or mild? Are you experiencing anything like that right now? If so, do you feel like you are stuck in that problem and you just want to solve it and get better? Have you noticed that regular medicine, most times, only worries about treating the symptoms rather than looking and fixing the root causes? I believe that optimal health requires a sprinkle of awareness combined with an holistic approach. That way, I truly transitioned from the stuck body-mind condition to an unstuck one. And I apply and will apply this same concept to any new health-related problem that comes up in my life. This podcast is not about me, but it's about how I can use my experience combined with my guest experience and expertise to help you get unstuck too, while I gain more knowledge at the same time. So get ready to hear some interesting stories and pay attention to facts and tips my guests will share with you, and I need you to make those yours so that you can implement them in your daily life. To help you do just that, today I had a chat with my amazing guest, Catherine Lyell. Today's topic is porn addiction and male sexual health. It comes with a warning though. This is not for the faint-hearted, and you might find yourself triggered. I've known this woman for years, so I'm very excited to share our insightful chat with you. Catherine is a men's health and porn addiction specialist in Melbourne. She's a pioneer in her field and a very brave woman at that. She's spoken to over 25,000 men, treating many thousands one-on-one. In 2013, she started a men's health clinic and is now a published author and advocate for positive and healthy male sexuality. Catherine helps men overcome their addiction to porn for good, empowering their physical and mental recovery with supplements, conscious sexuality, and tools to reconnect to women. So all of this to say, listen up my friend, you do not want to miss this one. Welcome to Unstuck. I met you a few years ago and I found out about you. At the time I was shocked, I will say, because what you talk about is something that is classified as normal, especially amongst men. So can I ask you, what is porn addiction?
A porn addiction, that's a very complicated answer, but the simple answer is if you're watching porn once a month or more, you have a porn addiction. The reason being is in the psychology world, if you cannot go without something for a month, then it's classified as an addiction. So you have that as the baseline. I also see men who are in their 70s and they have been watching porn for 55 years. They're only watching it once a month and they swear and stomp their feet and say, I don't have a porn addiction, but they cannot remember the last time that they masturbated without porn. So that once a month is the baseline, is the, at one end of the scale. But if the guys are only watching porn once a month and only masturbating that one time, then they absolutely hands down have a porn addiction. Once a month is also classified as regularly, and that's at the end of the scale. At the other end of the scale, I've treated someone who was watching porn 36 times a day. So everyone else falls in the middle there, and a porn addiction itself is a neural addiction. It's the addiction to the chemicals and hormones being produced in the body from the brain when you watch porn. Those chemicals are oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine. I can go into those further if you like in terms of what those chemicals all do, but that's what's happening. The brain is firing up and producing these the love drug or the love cocktail. If you just watched porn by itself without masturbating, it's not the same. You wouldn't have that same reaction. It's because watching porn is one thing, just like skydiving is one thing, and getting an exciting text from someone, that's like a dopamine hit as well. But when you couple it with pleasure, it completely cements the deal in terms of the destruction that it does to the brain. The destruction comes from this hit crash situation where you get an overload of chemicals and hormones in the brain, which the brain cannot survive in that state, right? It's exactly the same as a drug addiction. If you were taking cocaine every single day, you get this, surge of chemicals and hormones, the feel-good stuff, the serotonin, the oxytocin, the dopamine. And when you get those surges, the brain has to do something with it. It starts to adjust. And if you watched porn every single day for a week, it's exactly the same as taking cocaine every single day for a week, or any other drug, because the brain has to change itself to accommodate for all the extra chemicals and hormones. And over that time, the brain is changing, the neural pathways are changing, which are the mini programs in the brain that say, for example, when mum and dad fight, or when I have shit going on at school and I masturbate, I get to feel amazing or pleasurable or not sad or, happy or whatever. And that's a neural pathway. Boys are watching this at a very young age, especially now, but they always have. They've always been watching porn. It's just getting younger and younger and younger. But their brains are still developing till the age of 25, 27. So they've got all these neural chemicals firing off. The brain is changing itself, and then they're trying to go to school and learn. Yeah. And so that's what happens. The brain gets addicted to itself. That's what a porn addiction is. It's the brain chemistry, the addiction to the brain chemistry, the changing of the brain, requiring more, or at least that same level of chemicals and hormones regularly. And that's why the cycles of porn watching. So a guy might watch it once a month, and he's watching it every couple of weeks. And then, it's once a week, and then he might all of a sudden be single, and then he's watching it every day, and then it's 3 times a day. And what's happening there is, it's not because, they'll say it because they're tired or they're bored or they're lonely or there's no one around or, whatever. But what's actually happening there is the brain is going through a cycle of addiction, just like a drug addict might take drugs once every 6 months, and then, they get that buzz out of it. So they try it again next weekend, and then it just becomes, a constant cycle because of the brain. So it's the brain that says, we need this fix right now because we're coming down off the chemicals and hormones. And when your brain's coming down off crack, it's not happy, right? You get agitated and you get irritated and you can't concentrate. And men think they're horny. I hear it every day. I'm really, really horny, and then I come, and then I'm okay. Add some things in there. Your brain is actually searching for porn. It's not your sexual energy. And then when it gets the fix of what you watching porn and masturbation does, you then are okay for a while because the brain's been fed its chemicals and hormones. And then you start to come down. And when you start to come down, the brain isn't happy. So it's seeking out. And you're in the supermarket and you're looking at women and you're thinking like, I need to masturbate. And it's called hyperfrontality, when you're oversensitive because you've created a whole lot of chemicals and hormones, a whole lot of testosterone, and you get tunnel vision, and the brain is producing endorphins and all of these happy hormones. It likes being in that state. And when you start to come down, it doesn't like it. So it seeks it out again. And when you've got all of that chemicals and hormones happening for a really long period of time, we're talking 50, 60 years in some of these guys, they're oversensitive to triggers of women. So we call it the supermarket guy. And I hear this all the time, and this is no judgment. They go to the supermarket, they see a woman that's attractive, and they have to go and masturbate. Like straight away. I know guys that go and masturbate in their cars because they have to. They've been triggered. I know guys that masturbate on jobs when they're working as tradies because they've been triggered, or it's that time of the day and they just have to masturbate. So that's a long nutshell, but that's in a nutshell. That's what porn addiction is.
Wow.
It's a huge problem, and it's affecting over 90% of men. I've done lots of research since 2018, and I still have a survey that sits there with over 60 questions that's been running since then and since 2018, and that's what the new book is about. It's analysing all of that research. It has dropped from 97% of men are regularly watching porn to 87%. So over those few years, we are seeing a decline, and I already knew that. I have 4,500 contacts in my phone who have contacted me about it. And that's just in the local area, plus a few that have flown in from interstate and overseas. So I know how big a problem this is, and no one else knows. Even the people that are in my field and they're teaching at schools and things like that, they don't get it. It's only when you work with men and in the trenches every single day that you get it. I'm not just an academic. I'm doing the physical work and I'm doing the research, and we're seeing the silent addiction, right? Because there's evidence of gambling, smoking, alcoholism, drugs. Even when people hide it, there's still evidence there. But with porn, unless you get caught watching it or caught with it on your phone, and even then society will go, oh, he had porn on his phone. No one knows. And not one single man that I've spoken to has ever told their partner the detail of their porn addiction, or a mate. Not one single man. So, and I've treated thousands and thousands and thousands of men. I've spoken to over 25,000 men. Wow. It's the silent addiction.
Yeah. There is no awareness around it. That's why probably it just keeps going, and no one, until people like you actually talk about it, they will never know. They think it's normal. That's what I find on regular basis, friends. Myself, I used to use porn regular, and I quit around 8 months ago after I went in my first Vipassana retreat, 10 days. Mm-hmm. And after actually I did a tantric retreat as well, where I learned some more. Then I was like, yeah, fuck. I became more aware of what it was doing. And once I tried to use it, I was like, fuck, I actually feel anxious while I'm using it. I feel like I was researching this high moment, and the research was endless. I was always looking for a better and higher feeling.
Yeah, and that's one of the many, many problems with porn is men have no awareness of what this is doing to them, and the women have no awareness of what this is doing to their men or the women who are watching it. There is so much information on the internet about porn addiction, and it's all what I call white coat research. And a lot of the research papers are very, very hard to read. Even one sentence, research papers on any topic are hard to read because there's references and there's technical information, and it's very hard to read. There are books on it. Your Brain on Porn is one of the more famous ones, and people have written books about this. So the information is there, but it's not being carried down to the people or to the masses. And when I first came on the scene with this, I discovered it amongst my work. I had a clinic for men, and a psychotherapist, I think he was, came in, and he said he was a porn addiction specialist. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That matches with my men's clinic. What's this about? And he never came to work with me, but we sat down and had an amazing chat about it. And I just hit the ground running after that. I just knew intuitively. I'm very, very spiritual, intuitive. And I was already seeing things that I didn't understand, why I was seeing so much impotence and so much mental health issues. And, we all know that men are killing themselves at a much higher rate than women. So, why is that? And when I'm working on the body, I'm not feeling the energy. Kundalini isn't activating. So what's going on here? And so I met this guy, and all I did was change a tick box on my form. I just added, do you watch porn? That's all I did at that stage, because I was going to refer them to him, and every single client ticked it, and I just knew what it was, and I started researching it. Then the information is there. And when I first came out about this, I've been attacked very heavily about being a woman in this field. How dare I talk about this without having a penis? What do I know? That type of thing. But also that I'm shaming men because I'm talking about it, which is very strange to me, because I'm helping men do this. So the triggers are huge for everyone. And when you start talking about it, it's amazing what you find and what comes up. And these days it's a lot different. There's a lot of people talking about it. A lot of the coaches are talking about it, because the male leaders, the conscious leaders, have realized, like you said, you went on a course and you did some self-development, and somebody somewhere is, I already told you years ago what it was doing to you. But you have to have those different seeds to kind of come in and make it make sense for you. And when that happens, there's a lot of male leaders out there who are watching porn and have massive porn addiction. It causes brain damage. It's erectile dysfunction. It, ruins your relationships. So back to your point before, when you were talking about you were struggling with these, courses and stuff, you started to realize what was happening. And that's what happens with women. I mean, the women are none the wiser. They're just walking into a new relationship or dating or, even a one night stand. I'm naked. I wonder if he's going to like my body, all of this insecurity that women have. But also, I feel sexy today. I'm going to put on my good underwear. All of these things are happening on the female side.
Yeah.
And then, but on the male side, it's just their brain is running the show, and we want men to drop into their hearts. And the only way you can do that, and the only way you can get them to do conscious self-pleasure, move energy around their body, feel the energy around their body, connect that energy into another woman, and feel that union. And it should be mind-blowing. Sex should be mind-blowing. Like you feel like you've left your body, because you have. And, my spiritual training, when I've had sex in the past, like I've had to ground myself. I have to eat before and after, because I travel off into different places. But when I'm with someone that watches porn, that's not even possible from my side, because I'm interacting with someone who's dead inside, literally, energetically. Doesn't even realize he's not present. So that's a whole other thing. When I say this to men and say, if you're watching porn, you can't be present in sex. Men won't even get me into their men's groups, and because they get triggered by that comment alone. That's the one that gets everyone. When I say, if you're watching porn, you cannot be present in sex, and you won't be the best lover you can be. And men get so triggered by it, and the leaders are like, you can't say that to our men. They're great guys. I'm like, I'm not saying anyone's not a great guy, but this stuff affects your frontal lobe, which is the control panel of your personality, right? So just think that for a second. Guys have shame around this, and most men that watching porn a lot are having a lot of shame around this, and it has turned into something else. And there's things that they're fantasizing about now that, they would never have thought that they would be watching, trans porn or gay porn or, violent porn or, whatever. But what's happening is their brain is changing, and it's the control panel of their personality. So it's your decision making, it's your emotional expression, it's your memory, focus, concentration. It's all of the parts of your brain that make up who you are as a person. So when they feel shame and it is part of their identity, we have to acknowledge that even though they're not a bad person, it is what's happened to their brain. And the recovery, then it has to be about recovery. You can't just stop and the brain just goes back to normal, right? It's just impossible.
Obviously, you help men get rid of this addiction completely.
Yep. Mm-hmm. If anyone's heard of NoFap, it's a hashtag movement that started a few years ago by an American guy. It's taken over the world. There's billions of men that follow this movement. There's a million gazillion, Instagram accounts around NoFap. NoFap, fapping is an American term for masturbation. We call it wanking in Australia. So NoFap, and I won't even go into why they call it fapping. It's the noise that it makes, and my friends laugh at me every time I do the noise. So I won't do it on here. So it's NoFap. So it means no masturbation, no ejaculation, no orgasm. Otherwise known as no PMO, no porn, masturbation, orgasm. Okay. The problem with NoFap, so they have a cold turkey methodology. You just go off it. All right, you just stop. And they call it semen retention and seed retention. It's actually incorrect. Semen retention is when you learn how to have non-ejaculatory orgasms. So you have multiple orgasms and you learn to orgasm without ejaculation. So you're therefore retaining your seed. That's semen retention. NoFap is let's throw the baby out with the bathwater and get rid of all sexual activity, all self-pleasure, any connection with healthy sexuality or healthy masculinity, and it just doesn't work because it's putting the brain into scarcity, just like if you went cold turkey off drugs without injecting something else into that situation, not into your body, but into that situation. You have to replace something in there, otherwise it doesn't work. Because what happens is when they come down off porn, the chemicals and hormones are screaming out. The brain needs more. So they're being extra triggered by things in the supermarket, people in the street. They're fighting these urges and they're tired, right? So the sexual energy is not present in men that watch porn. Natural sexual energy just isn't there. And when they start to come down off porn, they feel really tired. They don't feel like masturbating, but their brain still wants them to do it. All right. And there's erectile dysfunction and all the things. So it's really important that they understand that that doesn't work, because what they're doing, there's 4 links in the chain. There's masturbation, orgasm, porn, and ejaculation, right? That normally all occurs at the same time. What NoFap does is throw that whole chain and just hope for the best without supplements, without learning how to self-pleasure differently, without energy work or breath work or anything. They'll tell you to have a cold shower, right? Or take up a new habit to try and reprogram the brain, right? That part is true and works, but no one feels like going for a walk every time they masturbate, right?
Yeah.
So the way I work is, and this is all guidance that I receive and channeling and research, we take one link out of the chain, which is porn, and we link the other 3 up. We teach you how to orgasm, masturbate and ejaculate, but under different circumstances. Obviously, there's no porn, but I teach you closing your eyes, the limbic system, how to arouse your body, awakening all 5 senses, relaxing the body, keeping everything in a relaxed state, closing your eyes, doing the breath work. That's just the beginning. And then we teach them more and more and more about the microcosmic orbit and moving energy around the body, and then eventually separating orgasm from ejaculation, right? So eventually we then take ejaculation out of those links in the chain, and you've just got conscious self-pleasure, which is ritual, and then orgasm. Because if you can't practice on yourself learning these techniques, it's not going to happen in sex, right? If you shut down yourself sexually, and I'm all for masturbation, my answer to everything is masturbation, but conscious self-pleasure, not rubbing one out, not doing it because you're angry or sad, or, you know, we call it the demon seed, wanting to get that seed out. It's a thing. People come to me and say, I need to come like once a week. And once I do, I feel better. I feel happier, right? And this is why we call it the demon seed. So my techniques are very different, and you can do it for 2 weeks or you can do it for 90 days. They're the options. Or you can come in and actually get a session, and the sessions are called integrated massage therapy. They are my own design. I am the only one in the world doing it, and I'm training people soon to help me with that, because I'm a kinesiologist, a massage therapist, psycho-spiritual therapist, intuitive healer, kundalini specialist. I do tantric healing. I do all of the meridian work. So it's not something I can just teach someone overnight.
Yeah.
And because of lockdown, it's kind of stuffed up. So my goal is to have a team of people in both overseas and here in Australia to do this, because it is the cure to porn addiction. Activating Kundalini, where the body starts to move and shake and the quantum field starts to activate from the feet up, and they get it like a wave going through. When you activate Kundalini, guys don't feel like watching porn ever again. From the very first session, if that occurs in the session. We've worked out after about 2 months, if they discontinue their work with me, or they don't do the homework, or they don't do the breath work, and they just, drop it and forget it, it comes back around in about 6 to 8 weeks. So they'll start to fall into old habits. So the urges start to come back. But the Kundalini activation stops guys from watching porn.
Can I ask you something before we keep going? Many people don't know what Kundalini is. Can you please tell us more about it?
So it's a Sanskrit term, and it is the sexual energy in the body, the organic sexual energy in the body. It's there from conception, and it's like 2 snakes coiled up at the base of your spine. And when you are activated, now this is another thing, people will call it horny. I hate the word horny, because we redefine everything when we do this work. So when I say activated, I mean, yes, horny, turned on, switched on, activated, but it doesn't necessarily have to be sexually for your Kundalini to activate. But in these terms, we work on it as sexual energy. And what happens is, before it activates, you'll just be like, oh, I'm really horny all of a sudden, right? That's your Kundalini's they sit at the base of the spine. And when you're activated, they go up through the chakra system and up through the spine, up to the back of the neck of the head. It's the tingling in the skin. It's the goosebumps. It's the hairs on the back of your neck. It's the desire and the you might be talking one person in particular, and you're just feeling really connected. That's Kundalini. But I can walk down the street and if I tune into someone's energy, my Kundalini activates, right? So that's the complicated version, but the simple version is that, and there's nothing simple about Kundalini, but that activates. There's Kundalini yoga, there's Tantra, there's a big umbrella that Tantra and Kundalini fall under. It's your life force energy. It's your chi, it's your jing. So it depends on where you come from and what modality you're studying. In kinesiology, we talk in terms of meridian meridians around the body, but in Tantra and Taoism, they talk about it in microcosmic orbit. And so the Kundalini activates and the energy circuit around the body starts to process and move that energy. And that's why men can have like 15 orgasms without even ejaculating. So the Kundalini is your sexual energy, and I tune into that, and I even treat women, and I can visualize and see their Kundalini in terms of, you know, right side is masculine, left side is feminine. You know, is it sad? Is it sitting at the bottom? Has it been abused? Anyone that's been abused, it won't be safe for their Kundalini to activate. It's a really, really powerful process that we do, and people start to convulse and shake. Full body sweats can occur, teeth chattering, tingles in the hands, cramping in the hands, fetal positions, shaking, all of that stuff can happen through a Kundalini activation. And as scary as that sounds, it's actually quite amazing, especially to witness. So
it sounds something very complicated, at the same time, something that everyone should actually take care of and fix.
Absolutely.
Can you explain to us the desire of men always looking for a new partner? I've seen that a lot in men.
So when you do what I do and you see what I see, when you go to places in life, you see it everywhere, right? I see it on the dating scene, on the apps, and I see it, you know, at the bars, because what's happening with that chemical addiction comes anxiety and depression, because it's that part of the brain that gets affected. And then there's performance anxiety, and then there's social anxiety as well. So that's all the gift of porn addiction, right? The other thing is the thrill of the chase. Right. And the thrill of the chase if you run these parallel, if you run dating and porn addiction parallel, it's exactly the same as all of the symptoms in dating, looking for a new partner, not just swiping on women and not talking to them for 5 minutes, or offering your phone number and looking for sex. It's this kind of thrill of the chase thing that's happening. And that's what happens in porn addiction, because whatever you watched yesterday isn't going to do it for you today. You're going to find another video and another video, and you're going to fast forward through that video, and gone are the days of having one DVD, tucked in secret squirrel, in the TV cabinet kind of thing. Gone are the days of Debbie Does Dallas and going to Sexpo and meeting your favorite porn star. That doesn't happen anymore, because people are Googling it. It's just coming up all over Google, and they're looking for that next thrill and that next chase. And that's because of the dopamine and the serotonin and the oxytocin. So they're seeking out these things. Human nature is that saying about go for the low-picking fruit, right? When I'd go out with my friends, I'd dress up, I'd look nice, I'd, have all the matching outfits, take forever to get ready, getting ready with the girlfriends, like everything's matching, everything feels good. What should we do? Can you borrow this? All of this amazing ritual that happens when girls go out on a girls' night. And then you get out and the men are all in little kind of circles, just drinking and talking, and they're not looking at you, and they're not looking when you walk past. And then when they start to get drunk, they'll start to stare at you when they walk past, but they won't talk to you. And then it's just grabbing and groping and staring and being creepy. That's what happens, right? And there's no judgment on any of these guys, because I don't know their personality. I only know what they're showing us. And then my girlfriends are getting drunker and drunker. This doesn't happen anymore, but I pride myself on holding myself well, even when I'm drinking, right? And I've been told that I'm intimidating and my hair's intimidating. And, I've been told I'm in the too hard basket because I don't flirt and get my boobs out, and I don't offer myself up sexually to men, whereas my friends in the past have done that. And it's quite embarrassing. So there's this thing that's happening with porn on the side. Then the women are also feeling like they have to do and be a certain way to get a man. And then there's my side of things where guys are telling me you're too hard just because I'm standing there and I'm not slutty, and I don't slut shame anyone. You can get your boobs out. You can, do whatever you want to do. I don't care about that stuff, but it's just a social experiment to me. I get lots of, research from watching people, and that's what's happening. So men are seeking out new partners to get more thrills. They don't know they're doing it. I've got this big thing about how long have you been single for in your life? You know, how long has it been since, you know, the single guys come in? I'm like, how long has it been since you've had sex? Because it's really important that even when guys are single, they're never single for long. And they're never single in terms of having sex with other women, right? It might be a fuck buddy, or it might be a one night stand, or it might be just, you know, someone on a dating site. But how long have you actually just been on your own without any porn, any sexual sexting, webcam, whatever, with actual people, and then no interaction on the dating sites that are all that thrill as well? How long? Because people aren't doing that. They're not spending time on their own. There's always something there. And you see that at the pubs as well. So years ago, everyone was like looking at each other and like asking friends to go up to people and, you know, I hope so-and-so is going to be there at the regular places. And, you know, the sexual energy was great and everyone was kind of like passion on and doing all the things. You don't see that anymore because guys have, and girls, they have like a team of sexual conquests in their phone, like the reserve bench in a, you know, in a soccer game. They've got these reserves there. So why would they even bother talking to a woman who's too hard, or, you know, he's insecure, or he doesn't have the confidence? Because that's what porn does, strips your confidence away. So in public situations, you've got men going inwards and not being able to, you know, women are coming outwards and being overly sexual. And then it's just this mismatch of like values and boundaries. It's just almost impossible to find a partner these days. It really is, because of what the dating sites have done.
This podcast is happily sponsored by WeUp, the leading experts in protecting people from harmful chemicals and heavy metals found in tap water. Do you know what the main downsides of using tap water are? Many people say that the tap water smells just like the swimming pool water, sometimes worse than that. Dry skin as well as itchiness after showering, it's real. Some see hair dryness and have to deal with hair loss more than usual. What about dandruff? Blech. Breathing in chlorine while having a nice steamy shower sometimes can worsen the symptoms of your asthma and eczema, and those are just a few of the harmful contaminants contained in tap water. Drinking tap water potentially exposes you to heavy metals that your body may absorb and store for life. Worry no more, we have the perfect water filters for you. Search weeup.com.au. WeUp is spelled W-E-E-U-P, and you can also find us on social media at weeup.au or WeUp Filtering Beyond Water. Just remember, if you don't have a water filter, your body is one. Now, back to this amazing podcast. Can I ask you, I heard you talking about erectile dysfunction when it comes to porn addiction. You know, I was thinking about not only what can go through a guy's mind, but what goes through a girl's mind. Like, for example, if your partner experiences it.
So I'll give you a stat that always knocks people over and they think I'm telling lies, which is weird. But anyway, I have never seen a man who had erectile dysfunction that wasn't watching porn. So 100% of the cases that come in with erectile dysfunction, now I'll say my definition of erectile dysfunction is can't get it up, can't keep it up, can't get it up without porn, like masturbating, premature ejaculation, and difficulty having an orgasm. Right, so loss of sensitivity. So all of that comes under my umbrella of erectile dysfunction. And it's nearly, I would say, around 98% of men that I see have some kind of erectile dysfunction. And a lot of them don't come to me for porn addiction. You know, there's other things that I treat, mental health and, you know, relationships and whatever.
Yeah.
So it's nearly everyone that's watching porn, almost. And it's nearly every guy that's watching porn. Right. Yeah. So if you look at the stats, then no one's talking about this either, right? And because they're watching porn, they're getting it up, right? But when I get them to masturbate without porn, they can't. It doesn't work. And they lose interest and there's no sexual energy there. So they've got, you know, a penis that doesn't work. They're trying to do the breathing. They have to do it for 10 minutes. And they're like, I just can't do this. You know, it's too challenging. So the women have no idea about this. And this is why we need to take it to the women. The women need to understand, because the men aren't communicating. The men aren't having conversations with their potential new sexual partners saying, I have erectile dysfunction and I feel really uncomfortable about it. They're not communicating. This is what I help guys do. In my programs, they have to have these conversations with the women that they're sleeping with. It's not easy. We get that. But The guys don't understand that you have to communicate. Otherwise, the woman, she's just going to react badly because she has an expectation that if you guys are all turned on and kissing and there's passion and touching and whatever, if she's turned on and women take longer to turn on, then you've got to be turned on and you sound and feel like you're turned on. So how come you're not turned on?
Yeah.
When it comes to your penis, right? And there's a chapter in my book called Confusion in the Body, because there's so many scenarios where men are turned on and can't get hard, or they're not turned on and they are getting hard, or they're ejaculating and they're not even turned on. You know, all of these things are happening. See this every day, right? So the women are blaming themselves. Guys, if you're listening, please start talking to your women about erectile dysfunction. And if you're not sure how, I can help you with that with a couple of text messages, right? They blame themselves. And I am a woman. I have been there, done that. I've dated men. I've been single for the last 13 years. So I have been studying men on personal level as well. And I don't even feel comfortable talking to them about it because it happens in the moment when I'm naked, right? And when I'm naked, I haven't got my practitioner hat on, right? And I'm expecting them to say something. Yes, I have more compassion and more knowing, and I know how to handle it better than most women because of what I do. But we blame ourselves instantly, even with the information that I know, and even with the skills and tools that I have. I still blame myself on a subconscious level. I just think, oh my God. Like, I'm like, we're like really into this and he's not into this at all. Is it and you don't have these conscious thoughts, but women are blaming themselves because they think the men aren't turned on by the things they're doing. Them as a person, they're feeling all of the sexual energy and stuff, and the guys aren't. And that's the lack of presence that we were talking about before. So the women need to understand this. They need to know how to deal with it. The men need to start communicating about it. And when my clients have, I've posted some of their comments online. They're astounded by the way the women have reacted in a good way. The women are like, oh, thank God, I thought there was something wrong with me. And now we can work together on this, do you know what's happening there? And then my work comes into it and they just say, I'm doing this program, and as soon as you lift the pressure off, also the erections start to return.
Yeah.
The erectile dysfunction isn't just physical. It isn't just the damage done by porn. The reason why they have erectile dysfunction, by the way, is because the chemicals and hormones that are produced in the brain, they crash. And when they crash and release, prolactin increases. Prolactin causes erectile dysfunction. And long term, if you are creating too much testosterone in your body, which happens from porn and masturbation, then that causes erectile dysfunction as well. And you're overstimulating your brain and desensitizing your penis. So no man is ever sitting down with this raging hard on going, oh, I should watch some porn, because it doesn't work that way. It's 4:00. It's time to go to bed. It's my wife isn't home. It's I just woke up. That's the cycle that men are in. And they're like, come on, penis, let's go. Yeah. There's no sexual energy in the body. You are using porn to turn yourself on, right? You're not turned on already. You're using it to turn yourself on. So you're training your brain. This is what stimulates us. And then the physical is happening after that. And then, men are ejaculating a lot quicker because they're watching porn. And so carry on to sex. And you've got men that can't get it up, but they've got premature ejaculation. How is that even a thing? But it's a thing. It's a very common thing.
I feel like many men actually blame the partner sometimes.
They do. And I hear it all the time. And it's the one thing that I struggle with on a professional level. I have to bite my tongue. I have to take a breath. And I hear men saying it's because the women are ugly, because the women I'm sleeping with are ugly. And there was this one guy that told it to me, and I actually was standing up at the time, and I had to walk around the room a little bit first. And I thought, shit, what am I going to do here? And I just said, well, how about you don't sleep with ugly women? Because I didn't know what else to say. And then the next question was, does she know that you think she's ugly? That's just more evidence of men doing things that they don't want to do, right? They why would you sleep with someone you're not attracted to? It's because they need to rub one out, right? And this is the dangers now with Tinder and God knows what other sites are out there is, someone like me who just wants to meet someone and date and see how it goes and whatever, you just get slammed with, do you squirt? Here's my phone number. Here's a dick pic. How about it? Meet me out the front. Leave your daughter in your room and let's go. That's a very common thing on dating sites. So yeah.
I say that because when I was probably 17, 18, I had this girlfriend, and I remember that was the first time I was scared as fuck about my dick wouldn't work. And I was like, fuck, I'm so young. There is no reason why this wouldn't work. And now I understand why. Like, I was consuming porn me, like all of my friends, we were just consuming it on regular basis. And I was so anxious about sex. And the only way I learned about sex was through porn, because I didn't have a very strong relationship with my dad at the time. Yeah, I couldn't ask my mom. So, I mean, not that I couldn't, I just didn't. And so porn and my friends was the only way I could learn. And we all used porn when I was a kid. So that happened. And it freaked me out for a couple of years, to be honest, because I didn't know. And then it just went away and on its own. I don't remember how. It just, luck, I guess.
The thing is, it's back in my day, I'm like 46. So the porn wasn't accessible like it is now. You had to actually buy a thing to watch it on a VHS, right? Or, magazines. And magazines aren't as dangerous to the body as a moving video is in terms of the chemical addiction. Because with a picture, you're making up your own fantasies, and that's perfectly, that's actually a healthy thing. But looking at the porn to do it is not. So back in the day, I had a lot of male friends, and every now and then you'd hear them say, "Oh, mate, I had, too many beers," was the code for erectile dysfunction. And it would only happen once or twice. A man could honestly say, "It's happened to me a couple of times." But nowadays it's completely different. And it's all the time, and it's nearly every guy. And it's a snowball effect, right? So the first time it happens, you're like, "Ooh, shit, too many beers." The second time you're like, "Hang on a second, I haven't had any beers. What's going on?" And then that's all it takes. Then the mental anguish kicks in, and the performance anxiety, and then it becomes a snowball. So then you're going into you feel damaged and broken, and so therefore you start withdrawing from women, or withdrawing from escalating things into a sexual experience with a woman, or you just go in hard and just hope for the best. And guys are just banging their way, they're pounding their way through their erections because they're afraid that they will lose their erection, which is very, very common. For guys that don't watch porn, let's just talk about those guys for a second. They don't have any of these issues, right? They might have it if they've had too many beers, but I can vouch for the erections of men that don't watch porn. They are completely different sexually. They are completely different in terms of being present. They don't know any different either, because they haven't watched porn to masturbate. They've seen some, an occasional clip that, their mate sent them. They're not, religious monks who are anti-porn. There's only been 22 of them in my career that I've met that haven't watched porn regularly. And when I go to put my hands on them, my whole body reacts to the energy. It's both thrilling, but it's scary for me, because I'm used to working with empty vessels, where I'm in complete control of what's happening to my body and the energy. And it's like I'm filling their bucket using source energy, not my own energy, filling their bucket, bringing their vibrational frequencies up every single time. But the guys that have never watched porn, I put my hands on them and they break up out in goosebumps. I get weird tingles going up my spine, and I just go, "Oh, please God, help me." Not that I'm believing in God and stuff, but it's help me with this one. And my body just starts to move and shake like a frog in a sock, and my body moves from Kundalini activation all the way through the massages. So here I am whew, and by the end of it, mate, I never have to exercise in the job that I'm in. But that same reaction can happen with the guys that stop watching porn. So that's how I can tell that it's actually working, because when I put my hands on them, whew, it's completely different. The energy, it's like their energy meets mine, and it's like a dance, and I can feel it, right? And they can feel it. And the erections start to return after about 2 weeks. And that's why I've got a 2-week challenge, because it's about 2 weeks that they start to return. Your brain starts to change immediately. So your body starts to heal. And I can almost guarantee changes within 2 weeks of doing the work with me, of you doing the homework. Yeah. So I can tell these guys are way more present. Their penises work 100%. You don't have to do anything. And that's how it's meant to be, through a kiss with a man. The energy exchange and the passion and stuff, that's meant to ignite, the kundalini, and off goes the blood flow. And this is why Viagra doesn't work.
I was going to go there. I was like, do guys think that's a solution, Viagra?
Lots of men are on Viagra in their 20s. I've seen lots of them. It doesn't work. Well, it does if they start taking it really young, which is a travesty, an absolute travesty. And I treat guys that are scared to do the work with me and not take the Viagra, because they're not allowed to take Viagra, when they see me or when they do the work or when they do the homework, because we have to see what's naturally there. Now, Viagra only works if you have the sexual energy present in your body. It's not so much about blood flow, right? So guys that are younger haven't brutalized their system as much. So if they take Viagra when they're younger, it tends to work, right? But they're the ones that are on it long term, and it's just no good because they can't have sex without it. And then it's just like, I can't fall asleep without taking this drug, or I can't go here without taking my anxiety medication. It's a crutch, and it becomes another snowball in terms of performance anxiety. But if you have to have that sexual energy present in the body for Viagra to work. And if you're watching porn, you won't have sexual energy. And of course, it depends on how long you've been watching it for. But sexual energy is not sex drive, right? Everyone talks about sex drive. All the men reckon they've got this high sex drive. They have an addiction to porn. Their brain has addiction to the chemicals. Sexual energy is your kundalini. It's the tingles. It's it's beer o'clock and it's the sun is out, or you go to the beach and the smells and you might hear a song that reminds you of an ex, and it starts to, and it's a sunny day and you start to feel that's sexual energy. And that's what's missing from the dating sites, from the pubs, from the relationships, everything. It's been obliterated.
Do you reckon in a relationship, using porn should be considered cheating?
This triggers so many people, this question, because it is personal choice. But in saying that, with anything, doesn't matter whether it's porn, gambling, whatever, it's about value systems, right? So if you connect with someone that takes drugs and you take drugs, then that's part of your value system, and you're both going to be okay with it until you're not. And then one is going to try and get off it and the other one's going to freak out, and you're going to separate, right? So it's the same with porn. So if a woman feels that her partner watching porn isn't something she wants him to do and does consider it going outside of the relationship, then it is, right? That is her value system. But if a woman thinks porn is okay and she watches it, she doesn't care if he watches it. And a lot of women don't care if their partner watches it so that they don't have to have sex with them. So it's an avoidance thing for women. They'll be like, he's got his porn. That means I don't have to touch him. I don't have to have sex with him, right? So it's escapism for women. This is the problem, because the women don't understand what it's doing. It's causing brain damage, erectile dysfunction, suicide. It's linked to prostate cancer, all of these things, right? If your partner wanted to introduce drugs into their daily life, versus if you change the word porn to heroin, what happens there? Because it's exactly the same, and not one person would say, yes, please bring heroin into my relationship, right? So there's more to it than the moral side of things. I will not date someone that watches porn, and it's because I know what it does to the body, and I don't want someone who has brain damage, erectile dysfunction, is suicidal, and ejaculates over other women's vaginas every single day. I just don't want that in my life. I want someone who's present, connected, sexually evolved, knows how to do the breathing, knows how to do the energy work, can, leave their body with me in a sexual union, all of that stuff. I'm all for conscious self-pleasure of a partner and all of those things, but I won't date someone that watches porn because I know what it does. Back in the day, I would have never have asked or known to ask, because we just assume guys do. They all do.
What about if you find someone that is on board, understands what you're saying, and is willing to quit? Do you think it's worth for you as a woman to just give it a chance? And
yeah, I used to feel that way. I dated someone in 2018 that had that scenario, and he's like, oh my God, I had no idea. And send me your ebook. This is before we met. It was on a dating site. We were chatting, and he said, send me your ebook. I'm all for personal development, and I'm got a, this great, he said, I've got an addictive personality, but when I realized that things are bad for me, that's it. I'm out of there, right? And he did, and he quit. But unfortunately, he wasn't date ready because of that reason, right? So we started to see, this is over 3 weeks, right? It wasn't a long relationship. Over 3 weeks, I started to see a massive decline in his mental state. His anxiety went up through the roof. He was bowing out on plans with me because he couldn't handle what was happening to his body. And he was starting to experience some really big, heavy, realizations. I'm more than happy to pass on information, seeds, training, whatever. But people need to do the work. And I believe this for anyone. It's not just me. I believe everyone needs to get date ready. All right. Yeah. If you've just come out of a shit relationship, or you've got a porn addiction, or you drink too much, or it doesn't matter what it is, sort your shit out before you date. Because you'll only ever attract people at that same vibration, right? So fast forward a few years, I now ask the question, all I have to do is tell them what I do, and they bring it up and they volunteer the information, which is great for me. The other thing on that is it's not a judgment necessarily, because, and this is where it goes to that next level, these men have brain damage. And even if they quit the day that they start dating me, they have brain damage, mental health issues, all of the physical stuff that's happened to their body. They'll be depleted because of the ejaculation and all the minerals and nutrients that they've lost. They'll be low in testosterone because of that. They're going to have a shitty sex drive. And I don't want someone with a shitty sex drive, right?
Yeah.
So we want guys to be sorted way before they connect with a woman, including me. In an AFL game, if you'd never done any training, and you'd never kicked a football, and you had a whole lot of injuries and stuff in your body, and you were like 45, you wouldn't run into an AFL game and just go for your life. And that's what men are doing in relationships. And the women don't know any better. So we have to start teaching people, not to interview, but to find out what the values are, to match people up properly. So men go into relationships. I hear this every day. All the guys that are married, the same old story of, she won't have sex with me. What else am I meant to do? I don't want to cheat. I watch porn.
Yeah, as a fix. Yeah.
Right? And I say, well, what about fixing your relationship? Oh no, I can't do that. I can't talk to her about sex. She shuts down. She's really defensive. She gets triggered. I hear that all the time. This is why I need to do the work with the women as well, right? And it is common, because women are like, if they don't want to have sex with their partners, but when I backtrack and say, how long has this been going for? The most obvious answer is since we've had kids. That's always a thing, right? So we don't want to disregard that. But if we go back even further, they chose someone that didn't value sex as much as them in the beginning. And everyone has more sex when they date. Even the people that don't value sex highly will still have sex when they're in that lusty period. The obligations, a lot of women feel obligated and feel like they have to accommodate men to have sex. And then it starts to die off, right? But if we go back to the start, they chose a woman who didn't value sex as highly as they do. Because I asked them, out of 10, how high do you value sex? They always say 7. And I say, why isn't it 10? Oh, because I don't want to be a weirdo man that thinks with my dick. I'm like, okay, well, it's 10 for me. Why isn't it 10 for you? You've just explained to me that the lack of sex in your relationship is detrimental to you and your relationship and your soul and your healing. So why isn't sex really important to you? And why are you choosing this for your relationship? And then if we go back even further, these guys had a crazy sex crazed mental person in their life prior to the wife, 100% of the time. So they went from crazy sexed up porn life to, I need to settle down now. I need to find someone that I can take home to mum. They might still be having sex on the side, but there's always a crazy sex crazed mental health patient in their lives. No judgment, girls. Before they settle down because they feel like they can't value sex highly to be in a relationship, like a loving long-term relationship. So they choose all of the other attributes. So she's a good mum, she's a nice person, she doesn't dress like a slut, all of that. They downgrade their value on sex to choose a partner, and then they regret it for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Until
they leave.
Yeah.
And the women won't talk about it. We can't get women into therapy. We can't get them into couples work. We can't get them to masturbate. I work with women. I work with couples. I've worked with women for 15 years, and they are shut down sexually. Not all of them, obviously, and don't come after me for my blanket statements, but it is a problem.
Plus, if I'm not wrong, I remember you talk in your first book, I guess. You have 2 books from now, right? One is coming up.
I've got 2 ebooks. One is Porn Addiction and one is Erectile Dysfunction. And then the new one is coming out in, just under 2 weeks, 19 days.
Oh, okay, cool. I remember you talk about, men healing through sex while women don't.
Yeah, women can heal through sex, but they have to heal through the heart first, right? So there's 2 poles on the body. This is the Tantra philosophy. So there's a heart pole and a groin pole. It's like the North Pole and the South Pole, right? One is positive and one is negative. For the women, the positive pole is the heart and the negative pole is the groin. For a woman to open up sexually and to activate and feel safe in her negative pole, she has to have the positive pole fed first, right? Now, this can be a big, long conversation about anything, right? It might be around your erectile dysfunction, but she's like, woo, he's opening up to me and I feel really, I'm all over that, right? This is why I keep telling guys, you've got to communicate. The women love it, right? So it might be taking out the garbage. It might be giving her 5 minutes away from the kids. It might be a massage. It might be just giving her intimacy and connection without the sex on the back of it kind of thing, right? So the expectations. So women, when they feel loved, and this can be in a one-night stand. I've had massages where I have cried, met the guy for the first time, gave me a massage, cried my eyes out because I've never ever felt that before. That energy, that intention, that love, right? I can guarantee you, if you feel loved in the moment, this is for the women and the men, you will have a full body orgasm that will try and rush out the top of your head, right? In that moment where you actually feel loved. Because they need to feel loved, they need to feel safe, they need to feel honored and adored, technically, even in a one-night stand, for their sexual flower, if you like. It's like an internal kind of opening, energetic opening, right? But it is an actual physical opening that happens. Women aren't always ready for penetration, right? They might think that they are and you go for it, but they're actually energetically and physically not.
Yeah.
And then, so that's the women. And then the men are the opposite. So their heart pole is their negative and their groin pole is their positive, right? So when they connect, so we have this energy circuit that runs around our bodies, our own body, right? Microcosmic orbit or meridians. When you connect with someone, you become one circuit, right? So when you plug in, so you're having intercourse and you're plugging in, say you're facing her and you're kissing and you're facing her, the energy travels through the groin, up her spine, through the kissing, down her spine. And it goes loops like this, right? Now, women have Shakti, feminine energy, right? I work with feminine energy when I'm working on the men. Females are able to transmute shitty energy. Men release shitty energy from their groin when they have sex. All right. So the groin for men is about guilt and shame, sits in your sacral chakra, just below your belly button. You've got trauma and stress sits in the groin. You've got testicles are about ex-partners and the way you've been treated in the past by women, whether it be rejection or conditioning or emasculation. The prostate carries the feeling of feeling useless as a man, as well as resentment. Then you've got the hips, which is about relationships. So this is all body talk that we work with Chinese medicine and a whole lot of other modalities. We store certain emotions in certain parts of our body. Anxieties in the bladder. So you've got that whole hub down there for men is just like, whoa. And they always say men carry their stress in their bums. Like if you push into the men's bums, it's like really tight and stressed and it hurts in that point. So when men have sex, they release their energy through that circuit. All the groin stuff, the trauma, the pain, the suffering, whatever, they feel better by having sex and having that connection, plugging into the feminine. And when that happens, it then transmutes and goes through, transforming the energy through the energy circuit. Now, I'm a bit of a freak when it comes to my gifts and abilities when I'm working on people, but I can't turn those off when I'm having sex. And this is very personal information, but I commonly cough and dry reach when a man orgasms. I won't go into too much detail because I don't know if my daughter will ever hear this.
Probably.
It's not attractive, but it happens, right? So a man is releasing. So if we just forget ejaculation, right? Just ejaculation is coming out of your testicles and your prostate, right? If you just push that biological function aside, the orgasm is the energy power source, the good feeling, right? And it builds up just under the belly button and it comes up and it's meant to come up through the chakra system, out through the top of your head. And most people close down when they're about to orgasm and they tense up and they stop breathing and they close in, right? Yeah. So I teach guys to like open up, get the energy up, get it moving up. So I'm like, shaking and moving and breathing and doing all the things that I do. And then these guys are releasing, these are guys I'm dating, by the way, they releasing and then I'm coughing and dry reaching from all of that yucky energy, right? And when I'm working on people in my clinic, I cough and dry reach from their stuff, right? Now, just because I'm super sensitive energetically and have an obvious reaction to this stuff doesn't mean that an average woman doesn't have that same dumping on them energetically. They don't really get it, right? So I used to have this ex that had, he was on steroids and a smoker and a really shitty relationship that he just came out of and a mess, right? And he would feel amazing afterwards and be messaging me like, oh my God, I feel great. And I've only had 4 hours sleep, but that was, I feel great. And I'm going out with the kids and I'm doing this and doing this and doing this and doing this. And I'm laying in bed like, oh my God, what just happened? Yeah. And I have to do a whole lot of cleansing work and I have to cancel clients and I can't function. I have to just sleep on the couch. I've literally been a dumping ground for his energy, right? So I've learned over the years to actually shift that out of me. But that's what happens when people have sex. This is why it's super important you be really careful who you sleep with in terms of toxic energy, married men, people that are seeing prostitutes, anything that's like that demonic drug addiction. You are having that pass through your system when you connect with someone sexually.
Yeah. Most people don't think about this stuff. They just feel the feeling after and they don't know why.
Yep. They don't know why. They really like someone. I'll hear someone say, oh, this really cute guy, look at him. He's really cute. He's been messaging me. I'm like, great. And then in the same sentence, they'll say he's still living with his wife and he drinks and he's got a drug addiction and he watches porn. And I'm like, so you're not meeting him, are you? And she's like, oh yeah, we're meeting up this afternoon. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on there? What are you doing? And then, and are you hearing the red flags? Why are you choosing that vibration, right? If we get rid of the judgment and the morals, if you just think of everything as vibration, depression is low vibration, right? Anxiety is high vibration out of control, right? And so if you think of porn addiction, and if you could bottle that essence of porn addiction and that vibrational frequency, you'd never open the jar. You'd never date it. It's not a moral thing. It's like you wouldn't choose that for yourself. But people that are a low vibrational frequency will attract people at that same frequency. And it then enables them to drink or watch porn or whatever. So, I mean, how are you going to choose a partner? If you're watching porn and drinking and gambling and smoking and, all of the things, how can you attract a partner? They're not going to like any of that stuff. You're going to have to attract a partner that does all those things so that you can enable each other and just stay at the same vibration.
Yeah. Do you find sometimes women, or most times I would say, from my perspective at least, they ignore all the bad signs just because they're unaware and also pushed by society that they need a man?
They're not unaware because they're saying it out loud, and this is where I'm doing all my work on, and I even speak to guys and they'll be like, oh, I'm like, oh, I haven't seen you for a while, like what's been happening? Oh, that girl I was dating, I have an IVO now and she's broken it a couple of times, I've had to go to court and the police were involved, blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh, and they're in victim mentality, like, how did this happen to me? How could this, I didn't see the signs. And I'm like, all right, go back to your first date, tell me about your first date. Oh, she went through my phone and at my house. And I'm like, why was she at your house on your first date? Oh, I took her home after my date and we had sex and she went through my phone, but that's okay, I've got nothing to hide. whoa, right? I'm like, there it is right there. They're seeing the red flags, but the desire to be loved and to connect is stronger, or not be rejected or not be abandoned. You know, there's stuff from their past, their dad, their mum, blah, blah, blah. It's subconscious. And so they're seeing someone attractive that ticks enough boxes to go on a date with, and they're ignoring all of the other stuff because it's the only guy that's come along in 3 years, which I know it's scarce out there at the moment, right? So, you know, especially women at my age who are independent and business entrepreneurs and whatever, like, where are the quality men? And you have to, for every door that you close, another one will open, right? But people don't see it that way. They're just like, well, this is the only guy that's come along in the last 4 weeks. I need to have sex. Here we go. He'll do. Oh, and then 5 years later, you've got children with him. You know,
and you're stuck. Kind of.
Yep.
I read something in your book about ejaculation. You know, one of the practices that you suggest is to not ejaculate, I think was something like that. And because of all the loss of all the chemicals and minerals as well. I'm a freak when it comes to minerals and water and the things. So
all
when
your
I read
supplements.
So I was like, do I lose more? I was like, I stop now.
Yes. Okay. So every time you ejaculate, you lose half your daily zinc.
Half.
Right? Half.
Yeah.
Zinc is the masculine mineral, right? Zinc produces testosterone in the body. If you don't have enough zinc in your body, you cannot produce enough testosterone. Right? Testosterone's about hair, nails, muscle growth, all that stuff, right? And we don't produce zinc in the body at all. We have to get it from external places.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you 100% of people are not getting enough zinc from their diet. A lot of the nutrients and minerals that used to be in food are no longer there. By the time we cook it, blanch it, microwave it, freeze it, you know, get it out again, microwave it again, and it's already been frozen in the supermarket, there are no minerals left in this food, right? So if you're relying on your diet for zinc, forget it. Men need to be on zinc supplement. Women do as well, but it's so important for men because they're losing. So every time you ejaculate, you lose half your daily zinc. If you're ejaculating more than once a day, you are depleted in zinc and you are deficient. Without even having a test, I can tell you that right now. Like, the guy I was dating was watching it 3 times a day. And I was like, how are you alive? And once we got to know each other, he's like, I've got chronic fatigue. I haven't worked for whatever. And I'm like, you're depleted. Okay. So ejaculation depletes you. Porn addiction in the brain depletes you. Okay. So it's this hit, crash, ejaculate. Then you get an ejaculation hangover. Now, the ejaculation hangover is, every guy knows this. You can roll over, go to sleep. You can go back to work. You can function, concentrate. You feel relaxed, right? Tension release, stress release. The ejaculation hangover is what's happening in the body is your testicles have gone into overdrive to try and make a whole lot more sperm, and they require energy to do that. Okay, so that's why the feeling, so not only have you had the crash of the chemicals in the brain, you've got this thing going on in your testicles where they're trying to produce more sperm. Just like, you know, that first day that you feel like you're getting a cold and you feel like you've been hit by a truck and you like, you feel like a bowling ball, your head, and you just want to rest. That's the thymus. That's not the virus. That's the thymus shutting down the body to fight the virus. It's saying, go to bed, rest, drink water, and we don't. We take drugs and we go to work. Okay. Yeah. So it's the same as what's happening with the testicles, right? So that's the hangover feeling. Then so zinc and copper work together in the body as cofactors. If zinc goes down, copper goes up. Now, copper toxicity is horrendous. And if you know, back in the day, they used to say, if you look up the dictionary and you see, you know, porn addict, there's a photo of you there. The photo of the porn addict is the greasy guy with acne, with his hair falling out, and he's in a dungeon and he's watching porn all the time and he's in the dark and he's got mental health issues and whatever. That's a copper toxicity. So I can guarantee you the guys that watch a lot of porn will have a copper toxicity and a zinc deficiency, right? So this is why recovery is so important. It's not just, oh, I'm going to stop watching porn, right? Your brain needs recovery. Your body needs recovery. So every time you ejaculate, you also lose your chi, or your life force energy, and your sexual energy is your life force energy. This is why guys that watch a lot of porn have no sexual energy, because you're just depleting it every single time you ejaculate.
I want to thank Bix Recovery for sponsoring this episode. Bix is a recovery tablet for everyone, but especially for those who train super hard and lose more minerals. I personally use this supplement daily so that I can get my vitamin C, magnesium, sodium, BCAAs, bromelain, calcium, potassium, vitamin E, Q10, iron and B12 all in one tablet. Crazy, right? That way you won't need to buy 3 or 4 different tablets to get what you actually need. And guess what? It also contains your daily dose of zinc you might just need. Also, since you stick with us this far, you can go ahead and use our discount code Unstuck20 to receive 20% off when you buy anything from bigsvitamins.com so that you can finally try Big's Hydration tablets for yourself.
So ejaculation and orgasm occur at the same time normally for men, but they are separate processes and we can tease them out over time doing some training with conscious self-pleasure. If there was a button I could press, I'd be a really rich woman, but there's not. Yeah. So we try and separate those through training. We get guys masturbating through training and they have to do, 10 minutes every second day, then 20 minutes every fourth day, then 30 minutes once a week, and then it's an hour, and then it's, So my recommendation for men who are listening is that you don't ejaculate more than once a week.
Yeah.
So you either got to learn to masturbate without ejaculating so you can still have the orgasm. When it comes down to sex, everyone says the next question is, well, what about sex? If you're having a lot of sex, I have seen men, like we all have probably, absolutely face down in the bed. I cannot keep going. I cannot get up. I cannot do anything. And they get up to have a shower to try and replenish, but they've had sex, 3 times in the night or something, and they just cannot function. That's what ejaculation does to you. So the tantric men, let's say, and the Taoism and the semen retention, and all my clients are learning how to masturbate properly, how to have orgasm without ejaculation, so that then they can have full body orgasm and multiple orgasms in sex.
Which is hard work.
It's only hard work because you've conditioned yourself to do it the opposite of that. So that's the natural thing. I've known all my life that sex is meant to be done a certain way, but I didn't realize until I kept having these shitty experiences, and I'm thinking, why is he choking me? Why is he slapping me? What part of, people see my hair and they just want to grab it like a horse tail, and it's horrible, right? And it's crossing boundaries and consent, but because women think that that's the way sex is because that's what's on porn, and men think that as well, and that's been their education, even though we haven't seen anywhere near as much as, they have. You kind of go along with it. And it's only till later on that day or when you're laying there afterwards that you think, I actually feel really shit about what just happened, but you don't want to say anything because you're naked and you can't kind of bring that confrontation into that moment, especially if you've been abused before or you've got PTSD or, any mental stuff going on. And here you have this trauma, sex being trauma for people. So
I find that's the difference between sleeping with a woman that is very afraid of this and a woman that is very experienced when it comes to tantra and all these things. She will actually tell you to stop, or she actually tells you what it is. And it's like, for a man, it's like the first time it's very, what the fuck, what is that? And then you get to actually appreciate that a lot the more you do it. Yeah,
it's like, slow down, go, you're banging a hole. I mean, what is that? There are moments for rough sex, passionate sex, all of the things. Yeah. But if you're just going at it, just the amount of awkward times when a man's just gone really, really hard and then, and trying to achieve orgasm and nothing's happened and you're all covered in sweat and you're just like, what is the purpose of this?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and you just stop and you lay there and you have a bit of a laugh because it's awkward and you're just like, well, now what do we do?
Yeah.
And when you with a guy, like you said, a lot of empowered women will have a sexual type conversation with you before you actually get naked with her. Whether you know it or not, whether it's official or not, she will suss out, how do you feel about this? And, I really don't like my hair being pulled. And, I used to joke about it. If you pull my hair, I'll stab you in the nuts. And I used to say, if you try and come on my face or anything like that, but in a joking kind of way, because I didn't know how else to, bring it up. But men are just taking and doing and doing it to you instead of with you, There's a big difference.
Yeah. And we're fighting against porn, which is one of the biggest growing.
It is changing. I think it was 207,000 views per minute. This was stats from a couple of years ago, just on Pornhub. We're not talking about any other porn site or Google or anything. That's what's happening in the world. And there are some changes, though, happening. There are some big people fighting against the porn in marketing that everyone sees, the porn in the shopping centers that everyone's in, they're in their bathers or lingerie or whatever for kids to see. There's people fighting through the banks. So the Visa, MasterCard are banning porn sites. Their clients can't use them for porn sites. So, and there's age verification stuff coming in. So there's a lot of things happening in the world. When COVID hit, Pornhub gave free access to their premium membership for any members because of COVID. So not only did we see, lockdowns and mental health and people locked in their homes and whatever, we had the government and the medical profession and, that's a whole other conversation. But we had the people, the big pharma, all of the things that we try and escape, porn, big pharma, government, medical, come down on us and offering free lollies and free meds and free porn and,
all the bad stuff.
We're up against a giant, but I'm seeing it in the stats. The stats have dropped 10% since 2018 in terms of how often guys are watching porn. So we are making headway, and my new book is coming out, and it's a tell-all vulnerable share, which I'm very nervous about. But we are now covering not just the science that we went through today, but we're covering the Me Too movement, sexual assault, kids being sexually abused by other kids, domestic violence, rape, and then, serial killers. I've got a whole chapter on porn to predator. Right? Because there's child pornography, there's sex trafficking. We are in a world as a woman that is quite overwhelming. I'm not going to say dangerous, because we get triggered, all the other men get triggered. So it's quite a, we're living in a porn world. We absolutely are. And we need to do something about it and change the vibration of the planet. So this new book is a monster book. It's huge. And it's going to change the world.
What's the name of the book?
The Uncensored Threat, Losing Generations to Pornography.
Okay.
So it's about the moral stuff. My dating stories are in there. All my ex-boyfriends and dates are going to absolutely be running for the hills about now.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, I feel like I will ask you questions forever, but I know we have to wrap this up, and hopefully we'll talk again anytime soon. And so where can people find you?
Okay, so integratedmenshealth.com.au is the website. You can find me on Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Facebook with the same name, Integrated Men's Health. And you'll see all of my resources. I get a lot of teens speaking to me, and I can't technically treat them because there's no money, and legally I can't do it without a guardian. So I have structured my website to help those that don't have money or can't get access to money to get treatment. And there's a whole lot of free resources on there. There's a couple of ebooks that are free. I've got hundreds of videos that are free on YouTube. And then I've got a 2-week program, which is only $17. People can do that. But if they buy the book, they get that for free. And then there's the 30-day program as well. So if you go onto the website, integratedmenshealth.com.au, you'll find all of the resources there. And then there's also a link where you can actually talk to me directly, and we can message each other and we can have a chat. So
okay. Thank you so much, Dan, for being on Unstuck, and we'll talk soon then.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks again for tuning in into Unstuck. Do you want to know more about a particular subject, or tell us what your favorite takeaway was from this podcast? Make sure to check us out on social media at Unstuck with Nick. Nick is spelled N-I-C-K. Easy. Also, feel free to share the love. We're here to help as many people as we can. By leaving a great review on Apple, Spotify, and all the other platforms, you'll be helping us do just that. Have a great day and stay healthy.